Good morning. It is very good to be here. Can you hear me okay? Yes. I am Janet Bockenmeyer. I am Dean of the College of Education at Indiana State University. And as a dean, one of the things that I can do is change up things a little bit. So I know you were introduced to a topic that I was going to talk about, but I've done it just a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about American education and what it looks like in the United States, particularly from the university standpoint, but you'll hear a little bit about K-12 education as well. And then I'm going to talk about trends, and specifically I'm going to focus on one trend that we are working through, and then why Indiana State. Let's see if that goes for. So I just said I'm going to talk about Indiana State University and the structure of Indiana State University. I'm going to talk just a little bit about the College of Education and its place within the university. Then I'm going to talk about the American education system from both a little bit of a K-12 point of view and a university point of view. Systems and trends, I'm going to focus on one trend. And then I'm going to finish up with a little bit about Indiana State University and why you might be interested in visiting us. So with that said, about Indiana State University. We began as a normal school in 1865. We are in the process of celebrating our 150th anniversary, and we're doing that over 5 years. We are now Indiana State University. We have many different offerings at our university, but the structure of the university may be very similar to here. We have a president who is over the entire university. Below the president, there are several vice presidents. The one that's most important for me in my role is the provost. He's the vice president for academic affairs, and he oversees everything that goes on as far as education, courses, and faculty. Under the provost are 5 academic colleges. We have the College of Arts and Sciences, the Scott College of Business, the College of Health and Human Services, the College of Technology, and my college, our college, the By College of Education. Within the By College of Education, we have 3 departments. We have the Department of Applied Clinical and Educational Sciences. Those are the helping professions to the teaching and learning profession. You'll find school psychology, school counseling, other programs there. We have the Department of Educational Leadership. They are strictly graduate programs in educational leadership. So if you're thinking of becoming a principal of a school, that's the program you would go into. Finally, we have the Department of Teaching and Learning. Those are all of our teacher preparation programs, education, elementary education, secondary education resides within there, and special education. We also have graduate programming there. As Indiana State's normal school, we do have a history of award-winning teacher education programs, a very long history in the state. We also have several supporting units that report to the College of Education. So in my college, I have about 50 faculty who report to me, and along with the professional staff and the supporting staff, there are about 100 people who work for the college. So let me go into the Department of Teaching and Learning. Since we are focused on education, we offer 3 levels of degrees. At the bachelor's degree level, our students may earn a degree in elementary education or special education, and in both cases, they can earn several minor concentrations. When Dr. Park talks to you later, you're going to hear about some of those areas. We offer a Master's of Education in Teaching and Learning, again with several concentration areas like elementary education, special education, literacy, etc. We offer a Master's of Science specifically in special education. We also offer a master's degree of science and educational technology. And then we have 2 PhD doctoral programs, one in curriculum and instruction, where you can find a specialization, and the other one in educational technology. So a little bit about what we value, because what we value tells you a little bit about who we are. We value several things. We value being relevant. We are very engaged and invested in making certain our students have the proper skills to graduate and start the job on day one. In order to do that, we may need to make certain that our programs are reflective of what students need. We value diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm going to come back to this in a couple of minutes, so I'm not going to elaborate on this here. We value the intersection of theory, research, and practice. And my colleague, Dr. Dahlen, I believe, will be talking about that in just a minute. Or he'll be not talking about that, but giving you an example of what that means. And then finally, we value in particular the power of learning to transform lives. It can change someone from being at a lower socioeconomic status to graduating with a degree and becoming very successful. So, a brief introduction of teacher education in the United States. How does American education, K-12 education, and the university intersect? Well, let's talk about this just a little bit. All states in the United States require students to have a degree, a bachelor's degree in education. That is if they're going into the public school. High school teachers hold a degree in their subject area. If they're teaching biology, they have the degree in biology with a concentration in education. At the elementary and special education levels, those teachers hold a degree, an elementary degree in education. All states also require a minimum of one student teaching experience or internship experience. That generally happens the very last semester that students are with us, though in the United States, we're moving more towards making certain the students are in the schools more often, even starting at their freshman year. They may get into a school and have some experiences working toward that last semester of student teaching. The university, the states have given the university the responsibility of granting the degree. So once they finished all requirements for us, they earn that degree. The state, however, is responsible for granting the teaching license. So that also includes, once the degree is earned, they have to pass any state mandated tests. I think those of you who are students probably have something very similar here. Our licensure areas, generally 2 areas at the elementary or secondary level. We have 3 levels of schools that students pass through. Elementary, which is grades kindergarten through grade 5. So teachers can earn a degree in that area. If they are in the middle school, which is grades 6, 7, and 8, or high school, which is grades 9, 10, 11, and 12, they earn a degree in secondary education. Now in the United States, students pretty much pass through the educational system together. So they start in kindergarten, and it isn't until about grade 9, sometimes maybe a little earlier, where they might start taking different paths. So when they get to high school, they have the opportunity to get, in general, just a general education diploma. They may opt to go to college, and so they will get a college-bound diploma, or they may opt to do some kind of vocational training, so they'll get that kind of diploma. Now again, this varies by state, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. So 2 things to remember about the educational system. First of all, education is considered a state responsibility. We have 50 states in the United States, and each state has the responsibility to oversee education. The states generally move it to the local area. There is some national oversight, but education varies by state. Secondly, the government has determined that a free and appropriate education is the responsibility of the state, and it's guaranteed. It's the guaranteed right of every child. So every child can go through school through grade 12 for free. So our challenge with this, and let me describe this just a little bit. I'm going to start with some numbers. The answer is, how many of you watch, do you ever watch Jeopardy or have a Korean version of Jeopardy? Are you familiar with that show? Okay, that's okay. Well, I'm going to give you some things right now, and I'm going to come back to this in a second. Remember these three numbers, 13,600, 132,000, and unknown but tremendous. Let me come back to this in a second. So America is diverse. I forgot the D up there, I'm sorry. So we have 50 states and hundreds of districts within each state. Those are school districts. So if we do the math, while there are similarities, there are thousands of differences in how students are educated. We have also, besides public schools, we have non-public school options. I know you have private schools here. We also have something called charter schools, which is sort of a public school, but it's a little different than a public school. We have virtual schools where students can go through their education at home on a computer or in school on a computer. And then we have pure home schools where students are taught by their parents. We have, as you know, in the United States, a very heterogeneous population. We have people that come to live here from all over the world. And the United States has now become a very transient population, which means families move from place to place. So students might end up in 3 or 4 different school districts before they graduate from high school. So remember those numbers. Let's go back to that. 13,600. That's the number of public school districts in the United States. Approximately. 132,000. That's the number of public schools across the United States. Now remember, that doesn't include private schools or charter schools, virtual schools. 132,000 is the number of public schools across the United States. And remember I said about all of those factors, go back for a second, how America is diverse. We have no way of knowing how diverse, I guess, we really are, because there are so many factors that go into education and educating a child. So, diversity is a challenge for us. The result is we have thousands of differences in not just education. I talked about all of the variations in education, but beliefs, because we draw people from all over the world. Values, looks, backgrounds, financial status, lifestyles, age, etc. So we are an extraordinarily diverse society. So what that means is when those students come to us in college, they have come in with a variety of backgrounds and expectations and experiences, and our job is to teach every individual teacher candidate we have to be the best teacher that they can be. But the challenge is we've got this very diverse pool of people who come into us. So, as a dean, how do we address all of the needs of the students to make certain that our teacher candidates are graduating to be the best teacher that they can be? It's difficult, but we have an idea. And one idea to do this is expanding our relationships through partnerships. There is no other way that we can address individual needs without focusing on a relationship. So we can promote diversity by intentionally integrating experiences for our students. So, one of the partnerships we're looking at is with you, South Korea. Here's a map of the United States. Now remember, this does not include Alaska or Hawaii, and Alaska is geographically our largest state. See in the middle? That's the size of South Korea. So, you see how diverse we are in terms of all of those factors I talked about as compared to you. And yet there are some similarities. We live, we live in this, we come from the state of Indiana. So if we go one more here, there's our state. The light blue represents our state. The dark blue is South Korea. Oh, and there's Jeju down there. Do you see? We're about the same size. So there are some similarities in size, but some differences in population. So we're looking at expanding a partnership in part because we can learn from some of the things that you do and bring that back and help us be better teacher educators. And we hope in turn that you will learn something from us, maybe perhaps in terms of diversity and different ways of doing things. I don't know. I think that's an exciting piece, is to work together to develop that friendship so that we can learn from each other. So our similarities and differences, we have some homogeneous but heterogeneous societies. That's also true in the state of Indiana. We have some areas that are very much alike in the way they were raised and what they look like in their beliefs. But we have some very different people in the state as well. National control, I think education is nationally controlled here. Ours is more state controlled, but there is national oversight. And then we have similarities and differences in beliefs, customs, cultures, etc. So a partnership allows us a win-win situation because we can learn from the best of what each other does. So, why should you consider visiting Indiana State University? I'm going to talk briefly at the end here about what makes Indiana State so special. And what does is, first and foremost, is our attention to the individual. As dean, I get to meet students all the time. And one of my favorite questions to ask students is, why did you come to Indiana State? Why did you choose to pursue your career at Indiana State? The number one answer is because when they walked in our doors, they felt like they mattered. That's what Indiana State does, and I'm proud to say that's what my faculty and staff do. The skills that are learned in our college are transnational. We have students who graduate from our programs who really end up successfully all over the world. We are a full-service college. I talked about just one department and the number of degrees that we offer at various levels, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral levels. We have two other departments that also offer bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees in related fields. If you graduate from Indiana State, I guarantee you that there will be lifelong friendships and networks. Our job placement rate for our students, so once our students graduate, we have a 94% job placement rate. So if that's not enough for you, we have some selected resources across the college and the university. We have an early childhood education center where we work with babies. It's not just daycare, but it's an actual educational center. Babies from 6 weeks old through students who are 4 years old. Dr. Park, that you will hear from in a little bit, is an early childhood professor in my college, and he often works there and takes the students there to work with the children and have some pretty good integrative experiences there. We house the Bloomberg Center. The Bloomberg Center is a special education resource for the state. So it provides training and information to teachers and teacher candidates across the state. We have a beautiful library called the Cunningham Memorial Library. Fun fact about this library is that it holds the world's largest collection of dictionaries. Very interesting. And then one other resource, we have a wonderful student recreation center that includes a running track, fitness machines, basketball court, has a pool, has a sauna, it has a hot tub, anything that you need for your physical wellness. As far as College of Education, our diverse impact, we do make it a diverse impact. We provide immersive experiences for all of our students. We make certain our students are getting real-world experiences. We have very strong collaborations with our local schools. So we're learning from each other. We have our students in the schools early and often, and they come actually and they guest lecture for us and provide us with other information. So it's a very good partnership. We celebrate diverse people and diverse cultures. So one way that we do that is through the Terre Haute Korean Language Center. Again, Dr. Park started this by himself several years ago, but in sort of working with our other Korean faculty. Two things for the Terre Haute Korean Language Center. One is he actually goes into the schools and he works with students to promote Korean language and offer Korean language classes. We have a very strong Korean culture in Terre Haute. Secondly, several times a year, he has a Terre Haute Korean culture night, brings in music groups and other things that demonstrate the wonderful culture of Korea. And those things are extraordinarily well attended by our families in the area. He's going to talk to you about that, I think, a little bit more when he talks. One other thing about Terre Haute, Indiana, and Indiana State University, it's its location. Remember the state of Indiana that you saw earlier in placement of the United States? We are located right here. We are close to Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis is closest, but we're also close to, well, Evansville, but Nashville, Memphis is over here, Louisville, Cincinnati's over here. So we are close to a lot of major cities. But the actual area of Terre Haute is quiet and it's beautiful and there's a lot of place to walk and be outside. So with that, I hope you've learned a little bit about us. I thank you for your attention and I am going to turn it over to, who am I turning it over to? Dr. Donlin? All right. Dr. Donlin's going to talk to you. Thank you very much for your attention.